Hi everyone! It's almost time again for the MTV Europe Music Awards, and since I was lucky enough to go along last year, I thought I'd share my story and my experience, so let's get started. You might be wondering how I managed to get tickets to the MTV Europe Music Awards, because that's kind of difficult. And I was lucky enough to win a competition. I'd been very excited for the EMAs. I was absolutely determined to get into the building somehow, or at least be stood outside, or something. And I was very lucky. I managed to win a competition, and that got me 2 passes to the show, and also 2 passes to the pre-show party, which was held across the road. So the pre-show party, the thing that I was most excited for at the pre-show party was that there was going to be a makeup stand and people doing makeovers. So me and my friend Lily, who came along with me, when we got into the pre-show party, we ran as fast as we could to the makeup stand, and we were the first people there, and they'd done a wonderful job with us. We looked fantastic, we looked like pop stars, and then that meant we were able to go back to the red carpet, get our photo opportunity with the EMA. Now, I don't know if you've ever held an EMA, but the bottom of that award was solid metal. And as soon as it was put in my hand, I felt my hand go, whoa, because it was very heavy. Later on in the show, one of the winners held the MTV award by the spring, and I'm glad that that thing was well made, because if that spring had fallen off, I'm pretty sure she would have broke her foot. Other things at the pre-show party included various photo opportunities, we had a free bar, and there was a DJ playing, and we also had camera crews going around filming the event for the pre-show show. And once the pre-show finished, we walked along and went into the Hydro for the main event. Now, we were originally meant to be standing with the other competition winners in an area where the celebrities went to collect their awards. They'd sometimes make speeches, they'd sometimes introduce other acts, and as great as that area was, I'm glad that we were upgraded, because we had a wonderful spot where we were moved to. We were upgraded to become part of the backdrop of the performance that Royal Blood were doing, and what that involved was there was a giant piece of scaffolding behind where they were going to be performing, and we were meant to be standing on that, just cheering for them, dancing and having a good time. Everybody was really comfortable standing in that area. Nobody was pushing, we didn't have anybody behind us trying to get to the front, and we also had a bird's eye view of everything that was going on the main stage. And I'm so glad we got moved, because we had a wonderful time there. We were looking around and we were just like, I cannot believe this is my life. Because I saw the MTV logos everywhere, there was videos of people on the red carpet, and I was just like, I cannot believe this actually worked out. Because I've been planning for ages how I was going to get to the EMA Awards, but I never honestly thought it would happen. So I was seriously fangirling up in that scaffolding. Now, as great as the show was, and as great as the pre-show party was, my most favourite memory of all came from when we were getting warmed up for the show. Because what happens is, if you ever go to see a show live and they're filming it for television, then they really want the studio audience to be pumped up, ready to go, and really enthusiastic. So what they were doing at the MTV Awards was they were playing 500 Miles by the Proclaimers to a giant Glasgow crowd. And if you've ever played 500 Miles to a Scottish crowd, you will find that they know all the words. They have dances made up, we're cheering at the top of our voices, and just to see 12,000 people singing 500 Miles and having the time of their lives was honestly the best thing ever. And now whenever I hear 500 Miles, I cannot stop smiling, because it reminds me of being at the EMAs. So we get warmed up and we do our countdown from 10 to 1, and the show starts, and at home you might have heard some crazy screaming. in Glasgow. And I just want to say that that crazy screaming wasn't scripted. There wasn't a light up sign that told us when we had to applaud anybody. MTV turned on the microphones when they wanted to hear the audience. They'd turn them off when they didn't want to hear the audience. But all the sounds that the audience were making were totally genuine. We weren't scripted, we weren't told what to do, and everything you heard at home was genuine excitement for the show, and we were all really excited. You maybe saw Nicki Minaj's dress at the start of the show. She had this really wonderful, intricate dress on her, and in order to show it off in its full value, she actually had to be hung up and kind of suspended in the air so that everybody could see this wonderful skirt. So it was funny seeing so many stylists trying to get her ready for that opening shot, and it was also funny watching that while Ariana Grande was performing. There was just so much to see everywhere you looked. There was things going on. Sometimes you'd see dancers setting up and you'd be like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen over there. Or you'd see a telephone box and think, that's a bit strange. I wonder what that's going to be used for. So it was so fun seeing everything behind the scenes and how it came together, who was working on what. It was just fantastic. So we made it onto the camera during Charli XCX and Royal Blood. Royal Blood was the main one that we were there for, but Charli XCX also done a kind of flying through the air shot, and she went right past our scaffolding and we were all dancing away. I had a lot of people sitting at home trying to find me on the telly because they knew that I was going to be on the telly somewhere. And if I watch the show, I can point out where me and Lily were standing, but nobody could have ever watched the telly and been like, that's Kate there, that's Kate, that's definitely Kate. So that's okay, if you didn't see me, it's alright, it's cool. Now, there was a lot of performances on during the EMAs, lots of different ideas, lots of props, lots of dancers, lots of visual effects, but the favourite one for me, and I think it's probably the most exciting one if you're in the audience, was Enrique's set. For Enrique's set, they made sure that everybody in the audience had one of these wristbands, and that wristband would light up. It was programmed to light up in particular ways during particular songs, and it was so fun to look around and see everywhere covered in lights. It was absolutely nuts. And you may be thinking, this sounds a bit like the sort of thing Taylor Swift had on her tour. That's exactly it. This is the first time I came across them, and I just thought they were absolutely amazing. It was so fun to see them. The only downside was when we went home, they were still lighting up, so we actually had to lock them in a suitcase so that we could get some sleep. But it was so much fun to see, and it was absolutely incredible to see that in person. There was so much fun going on during the show. There's so many highlights. I cannot even begin to go into every performance and tell you all the things that I enjoyed, because this video would be an hour long. So the show ended with Ozzy Osbourne being honoured as a global icon, and that was just wonderful to witness. We got to see a video of his whole career so far, and just to see him there in person and hear his speech, it was just wonderful. I never ever thought I would be in the same room as Ozzy Osbourne, ever, and that was so cool. And then the show ended with what I can only describe as a total rock fest. They played Crazy Train, there was fire and flames going off everywhere. Slash from Guns N' Roses was there performing, along with a couple of other people. And honestly, I think the whole time, through the whole performance, I was just stood there like... I was kind of situated on the side of the room, and there was lots of fire effects and pyrotechnics and all sorts going off on the main stage. So you'd think, quite a distance away, and quite high up, I wouldn't feel the effects of the flames. Nope. I felt like I was being barbecued, even right back there, so I do not know how those people right near the front survived. And It's just wonderful. It would have been so funny to go home with a suntan in November and be like, yeah, I was too close to Slash. Overall, it was a wonderful night. There was some wonderful entertainment, and then it was also so much fun to see how MTV puts a live TV show together, and I cannot believe the amount of work that went into that. All those people worked so hard, and I appreciate that a lot more, especially now that I've seen it in person as opposed to watching it on TV. This year the show is in Milan. That's a bit further for me to go. If somebody wants to give me a ticket, I would still absolutely get out there and see it again, but I think I'm probably going to be watching it on TV this year. So that's about it for me today, guys. If there's anything else you want to know about in particular, or something that I didn't mention, then go ahead, comment down below, and I'll try and help you out. Thanks, guys. Cheerio.